Hi guys, I'm Nate from Good Man Racing, Team Trainwreck, and my friends who are tackling the Nora 1000 in April of 2024. Allow me to introduce you to downloading the bird's eye view maps in bulk for the south of Baja. For those who are unaware, you can download satellite imagery to this particular device. This is a Garmin Baja Tread XL. This is a race edition. The chase edition is the exact same device. It just comes with different accessories. Do you see how this has satellite imagery right here? There's actually 53 gigabytes worth of content on this device just for Baja North alone. It is the highest quality. You zoom into it, and yeah, you're not going to be able to see fingerprints and footprints necessarily, but you will get a stupid amount of detail that gets you clear and concise understanding of the terrain you are racing through. A lot of people don't like using satellite imagery for the actual race. However, in the chase mode, or if you're driving slow enough, this is actually really useful information, but it does not go on to South Baja. Yeah, it's probably around the San Ignacio territory where it really terminates. However, this whole southern portion needs to be downloaded. How do you do that? There's two portions of this. I'm going to give you the too fast didn't read version. Simply put, hit your layers and check to see if you have bird's eye view turned on. It becomes a little blue or grayed out. Once it's highlighted in that color, you can do a quick and dirty check to see if you actually have it. Okay, great. If you do not, this is how you do it. Go to your apps, Bird's Eye Direct, and you have a big file here called Baja North. As soon as you hit this download icon on the top left corner, you're going to see a blue bounding box here, and that is the amount of area that you can download for a satellite. This tells you the file size. This tells you how big it is in miles. See how this is a 5-mile box? Let me change that to 50 miles. Cool. Now you can see that this is a 50-mile by 50-mile box. It is huge in comparison to what we saw with 5. There's a big drawback though. You see how this is now up to 1.6 gigabytes? That is on high detail. In a race car, ideally, you have the highest amount of detail. But instead of being a 1 gigabyte file, now it's 4 gigabytes worth of data inside this zone. That is a lot of data. It's, by what this device is quoting, almost 3 hours, a film movie time frame, 2 hours and 39 minutes, just to cover this area. So if you wanted to go to Mexico and download everything you see on this map, just this little area around La Paz is 2.5 hours worth of data to download, and it's 4.5 gigabytes worth of content. If we just do the same surface area and go to high, now it's 1.6 gigabytes, and you have that data downloaded in a much shorter amount of time. It's still a lot of information, but if you are using one of these things in your race car, you need to have the highest level of data so then you can reference it in your race if you have to. A lot of times when the race car needs to have help, they're not just giving you location information or descriptions on your whereabouts. Ideally, you would have big landmarks that you can point people to on a map. With these devices here, you could say, I'm next to this big brown rock right here in this valley. That helps people out a lot because they can go look at their satellite imagery and say, hey, there's a big brown rock over there. And then when they see it in person, hey, there's a big brown rock. You can have that level of detail across this entire map, but it's going to be gigs and gigs and gigs worth of content. The problem is that if you are to hit download on this and it takes an hour or two, the screen will go dark during your time just because it's trying to save power. So if you try to download content like this, you really need to have the battery on the computer, on the screen, on the entire time that you're trying to download data. Otherwise it pauses and will resume once you access the device again. So to make sure that that happens, plug your device in. I'm using the USB-C port here, and you want to go down to developer options. But when you buy this device, there is no developer options. So in this settings menu here, hit about device. Scroll down, about device. Whoa. Yeah, about device, scroll all the way down to the build number and machine gun tap this thing. Okay, I have tapped the build number over and over. Now you are a developer. So go to the developer options and stay awake. Screen will never sleep while charging. Turn that on. If your device is charging, the screen will stay on, and now this thing can idly download content, and you don't have to babysit it every 1 minute, 2 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you have your power saving options set to, because now it will never turn off. So now that we know that it's not going to turn off, we can go back to our Bird's Eye Direct and choose where we're going to go. Whenever you're on this screen, ideally, you just download the highest resolution along the track that you're aiming for. So first download your race file, your actual course and your course notes. And let's say this highway one was my actual race course, just for laziness sake. I would like to have the highest level of detail here in my race car. If you have a spare one of these devices, use the large, unless you want the highest level of detail. In that case, knock yourself out. But in this case, this little box right here is 5 miles. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it 50. All right, now we have a good amount of surface area here, but you see how you have all this extra content you probably don't need during your race? Well, you're downloading this in boxes. That's just the way that satellite files are parsed. You download big files. You want to make sure that your content practically overlaps, barely overlaps the content before. That way you don't have any dead zones. Because if you just click it in a random spot, you're going to have a gap here in data, and it's just going to completely cut off on your screen. You'll be like, wait, where'd my satellite imagery go? And once you drive back into a parcel that you've downloaded, that will, you'll be fine. But if I were to download this whole thing right here, I could do it in a whole bunch of small 5-mile sections or 10-mile sections. But now that this thing is not going to go to sleep on me during this 2.5-hour download, I would just hit download. You can give it a fancy reference, but I wouldn't. So I downloaded it on high for this particular example here. We've got about 2 hours, 3 hours worth of downloading. On the race equipment though, download the highest level of detail. Now, if every single device is set up identical, that's great, but that's a duplicate amount of work, and you cannot download this file and share it to another device. The Garmin, Google, Apple, all of these tech companies are required by the federal government to have devices actually download this content. You know, like how you download offline maps on your phone? Exact same thing. This is doing the same thing. Why can't we just share one file and another? There's an export restriction on that kind of data. That way the non-NATO countries don't get this satellite data. That's why. That's why you got to deal with it on every device. But now that my device is not going to turn off, this thing's just going to run for the next 2 or 3 hours, downloading this one parcel. And once it's done, then I can go to the next section of my race course that's not been downloaded yet. So that thing's downloading over there. You would actually see that GPS data here because you can see the Baja North. But just for the sake of time, I would hit a new location along my race course. You know, I'm using Highway 1 as an example here. And I would just make it as big of a box as I can. And then I hit download. Again, race car, use the highest level of like detail you can. In your chase models, do the high, unless you have a lot of time to kill. In that case, you can do highest again and again and again. But if you do a high level of detail, this is a couple of days worth of work. If you do the highest level of detail, this is a week's worth of work. So you really want to make sure that you're not doubling up on a whole bunch of stuff just for redundancy's sake, when the device is the more redundant component than the detail you get on the satellite imagery. Again, that's how you download content for Bird's Eye, and that developer mode is what stops this thing from turning off. And if you're really, really smart and can keep tabs of everything, you could just set up a list of things to download and just hit go. But that's it. I'm Nate from Good Mayhem Racing, Team Trainwreck. I wish you guys the best of luck with Darren's race car. For everyone else that's racing the Nora 1000 this year, good luck and have a great time. I will see you out in the desert, if not my garage. Like and subscribe for more.